why am I here? Because, it's a constant question I get. You have a great life in the States. I've been blessed. You have, property in other countries on, beautiful beaches. You have places in the mountains. And I was really running towards fulfilling not only my spiritual destiny, but wholeness. And what I realized, I guess, through my journey is, I was teaching or sharing concepts around generational wealth outside of financial wealth, which is physical wealth, kind of the spiritual and moral wealth and kind of family unity. And I realized that I had accomplished some of those things, but that community, family unity wealth, some of the spiritual journey and healthy living, there were gaps. I was looking for something deeper, and that was really my purpose. And I found it here. I'm Tim Booker. I'm originally from Washington, D.C, and I'm based now here in Nairobi, Kenya, and happy to be here. Hello, my name is Tim Booker. I'm originally from Washington, D.C. I'm in Nairobi, Kenya. Let me show you around. Okay, as you come in, you'll see we have some Afrocentric art. We come in and you get a chance to see a beautiful woman layered over top of the continent, which is great. We have a half bath here. We have a social media or storytelling room. This room here is where I do a lot of my content. We do storytelling for product launches. So I'm in the process of kicking off that. We're going to talk about AI technology, and we're kicking off something called the Nairobi Accelerator, which we could talk about later. So enter, come with me. I came here, I have a cousin slash sister. She's actually my first cousin, but essentially we're as close as any siblings. She has spent her career empowering disadvantaged people, and she sits on many boards of nonprofits. And one of the nonprofits she was chairman of the board was the Firelight Foundation, based here out of Kenya in Nairobi. And they support, I think, about 8 or 9 different NGOs here in the local area. And she's been telling me for years, you gotta come, you gotta come. I want you to come and help participate and give back and bring your talents. So they had their annual board meeting here after COVID. And so last year I came here to participate as a part of that, and also to see Kenya. And that experience changed my life. Working with many of the NGOs who are doing outstanding work. Was out in Machakos County working with one NGO, and just something happened that day where, spiritually the calling was, I need to be here in Kenya. This is the place for me. Even though I'm not sure exactly all the things I should be doing, but that brings me to where I am today. So when I left here, I extended my trip first. I was planning, I think originally to be here a couple of weeks. I ended up staying, I think about 5 weeks. And then I made a decision when I left it, I will be back and make Kenya my home. So went home, started kind of designing my life in a way where I could come back and be a part of this community and follow what was in my heart and in my spirit. Welcome. Here's my living room. I love this room. I like the shape of it. It's square. This is where we sit. We have conversations, listen to music, watch movies, all types of business meetings happen here as well. I love the fact that it flows directly out to the patio, which we'll show shortly. This is probably the primary reason I got this home. Large living room, access to a beautiful patio, a curated garden that's professionally landscaped, so I love it. And as you see, more Afrocentric art, all handmade artisans here, made here in Nairobi. I love that. All the artisanship that you see, local painters, craftsmen, love this. It's beautiful here. All right, so what else I want to highlight? Quickly, before we go out to the garden, I guess we can do a quick tour of the kitchen. So if you come through these double doors, you'll see they have dining here, a dining room. We have a large kitchen with an island in the middle, which is very nice. The great news about being in Africa is that you can have people in your house that can help and cook for you. So I'm fortunate enough to have a high quality person that works with me, Miss Violet, who prepares my meals, makes sure the house is tidy, and takes care of all the maintenance that we have here in the home. So I'm not going to take you back there, but in the back we have a second kitchen for preparing for events. So we have a burner, we have another refrigerator, another freezer. We have a whole curated space in the back. We also have maids' quarters back there as well, large pantry, everything you need to host events. So this kitchen primarily is used for serving and eating. A lot of the meals are prepared in the secondary kitchen. It was more beautiful than even the videos and the pictures and the research I had done. It was more green, it was more modern. The diversity of people here was broader and deeper. The thing that was really impressive is, I don't know what I expected, but what I encountered was people with not only a great spirit, but really bright, entrepreneurial people from a diverse background. People who were well-traveled, educated in London, educated in the States, educated in Kenya. They really were global citizens. So I think that was my impression. I was like, wow. The intellectual capital, the energy, the amount of youth, just energetic people here was kind of surprising for me. And I thought I was pretty well educated. I thought I did all my good research, but nothing's like it kind of what you experience. So, so that was my first impression. Some of the things regarding weather, the fact that, Kenya and Nairobi specifically was the jewel of Africa. All my research kind of just validated that from a business perspective. But just the spirit of the people and the quality of lifestyle and the level of development of Nairobi and Kenya in general. This is my favorite part of this house. This is what sold me. Once again, artisan-made table, made here in Nairobi by local artisans. As you can see, even this, local artisan made this as well. We have folding chairs, local artisan made out of mahogany. Everything is just absolutely beautiful. We have our heaters. We have a fireplace. Everything has been curated and made here locally. And as you swing around, you'll see, here's my sitting and lounge area where we sit. I have a fire pit that I'm starting right now that we usually sit here in the middle. And it's such a beautiful setting to sit around a fire, even when it's not cold, just to have the ambiance of a fire and conversation. So I call this the fireside chats, living in Africa. As you see, we have a beautifully professionally curated garden that's maintained for us. The gardener does an excellent job maintaining the plants. The other thing I love about this is we actually have herbs here. If you see right here, this is where I do my mint tea. I love mint in my water, so we grow mint here. We have some other herbs here in the corner as well. We have more mint over there, so you can just come right outside. You can pick your fresh herbs and you can take it straight in the house and prepare your tea and some of your food as well. We have a bird feeder. I see all kind of exotic birds here every morning. Yellow, red, even a bird that has orange in it. So I love that. So we keep this filled so we can enjoy nature. And also in terms of grounding, this is where I come in the morning to do my stretching. I take my shoes off and I ground to the earth. This is where I get my fresh start in this garden. And so I love it. So this makes me feel like even though I'm in Africa, this could be so many places in the world. We have the wall, security wall, covered in vine. We have all the different types of plants. From here's a bamboo plant. We have palms. We have all kind of exotic plants. This one right here is probably my favorite. I love this plant right here. I don't know what it is about this, but this red plant with the large leaves, this is one of my favorite. I love it. I have several of them around the property. We have this plant over here that produces yellow blooms, so it's really a colorful experience in this garden. We have hanging plants everywhere. It's just beautiful. I live many places in the world, and this right here is healing. This garden is healing. This is what life is really about here in Africa. So what's great about this is the quality of life that you can live here in Africa. I've been fortunate enough to live well in the United States. I have other residents in other countries as well. And right now, I got to tell you, the level of joy I'm experiencing here in Nairobi is unmatched. Not only the quality of living in terms of the warmth of the people, the staff that works with me. I don't feel like they work for me. We work together in maintaining a home, and that's a different feel. I've had people work for me before, and it felt like they work for me. Now I feel like they work with me, and that's a big difference. So this is how I'm living. I'll show you the rest of the home shortly, but this is the first floor. So follow me. My life here in Nairobi is much different than what I had in the U.S. First of all, it's a lot more relaxing. The energy level is strong in terms of energy, but it doesn't have the stress. So I'm able to think a lot clearer. So I think that's a compelling difference. I think, I used to always say when I was in the U.S. sometimes I couldn't sleep because my mind was filled with task, activity, and responsibility. So from the moment I wake up, my mind is just running. And I find when I wake up with a sense of calmness or stillness. I still begin the process of digesting my strategy, but without this chaotic pace, this sense of I need to get moving before the day gets away from me. It was kind of always felt rushed in the States, like I just didn't have enough time. And if I don't get this done, I was, I guess, genetically programmed to just run. And I kind of wake up and I'm able to kind of be a lot more intentional and thoughtful about how I proceed. And I'm just as effective, which is interesting. I'm just as effective. I'm able to prioritize things in a clearer way. So I think that would be the big difference. The environment's different. The environment affects everything. Your environment affects everything in terms of how your body responds to stress, how you think, how you process, your creativity. Everything is impacted by that. And so specifically with how I've curated my life here in Nairobi, I've eliminated a lot of those factors and I've enhanced my ability to optimize, I think, my talent and my creativity. So I'm excited about that. And that also brings a certain level of professional excitement versus me feeling stressed. I'm a lot more optimistic and I feel like I'm reinvigorated. Like, I think somewhere during the process of my journey through the U.S., I don't say I was beat down, but I definitely was losing my edge that I'm going to, how do I put it in a way? I used to feel like I'm going to be the best in the world at my craft. I had that goal. I'm going to be the best. I'm going to lead change. I'm going to impact the world in some fundamental way. So somewhere along the line, I became a little bit maybe jaded and, kind of wanted to go kind of park on the sidelines, lay on the beach, sit on the mountain, swing in the chair, and just relax and decompress. And now the fire is back. I'm ready to continue the journey to do something great. And that's what I think a fundamental difference between what I was like in the U.S. and where I am today. And I just want to note one thing, that my journey included a couple of steps before I got to Africa that helped me with that journey. So I think the time I've spent in the Caribbean, Dominican Republic specifically, the time I spent in Colombia, in South America, and many of the places I traveled, from Bali to Thailand, to, spending time in Mexico, all those trips position me in a way where I can maximize the opportunities here in Africa. It gave me a perspective and experience that helped me build to where I am today. So this is a culmination of years of work, of intentional work. And so that puts me today in a different place than where I was in the States. It's diverse, but it always starts when I wake up. The first thing I do in the morning is I do my calisthenics in my room. That's kind of my meditation hour. Obviously, once I come down, I usually come to this yard, my backyard, and I take my shoes off and I ground myself to the earth. I stretch. And I kind of take time to kind of reflect on life and what I'm going to plan for the day. I do that before I have my morning coffee, of course. And and I stand and get some sun. Vitamin D is important, so I try to integrate that into my life. So that's what my day starts with, in coffee. And oftentimes after that, I will begin to walk. Here, within 10 minutes, I have almost unlimited options in cafes, stores, restaurants. So there's a really beautiful track called Jeffries right down the street. I can walk down there and I can walk around that track. It's beautiful. And so I'll start my day with something healthy, and then obviously kick my day off, get online, and continue my day based on the meetings I have. So that's basically it. I mean, obviously the other thing is I'm fortunate enough to have somebody that assists me here in the house. So many times, she'll cut up, fresh fruits for me. So, sometimes I'll have granola before I leave, but many days I have a combination of mango, apple, pineapple, all the various fruits cut up, and I have them in a bowl, and I usually eat fruit in the morning. So that's kind of how I start my day. Occasionally I'll have an egg or omelet. So I'm able to have that to kick my day off, and that's nice. So while I'm making my coffee, I'm usually have someone helping me prepare my breakfast if it's not already prepared. So as you come back into the house, you'll see this double doors that I open up leads back into the living room, where I spend most of my time between here and the patio. Up here we have 4 bedrooms. Each bedroom has a bath and a walk-in closet. So let me show you these bedrooms. What I like about this is all the bedrooms are pretty much separate, kind of separate suites. Here's one of my first bedrooms. As you'll see, extremely high ceilings. You can see that. This is a guest room for me to host people here. As you move down, you will see, as you come down here, we actually have a walk-in closet here. We have a bath. And this particular room has a private patio. The only problem with this room is your guests usually don't want to leave. So people come out here, you can relax in the morning, you can have your coffee. So the staff will bring it up for you. You can just sit here and relax in the morning, read, obviously work on your computer. So this is a nice advantage here. You kind of have your own space as you come through. And let me show you bedroom number 2. All the bedrooms in this house are very large. That's one of the things I really like. People seem to have their own space. So this is bedroom number 2, which is on this side of the house. Directly, you have a walk-in closet. You have another bathroom over here. All the bathrooms and closets have built-ins, and you'll see that this bedroom is large as well. So at this point, I've been in this house less than 2 months, so I'm in the process of decorating all the rooms. This is kind of phase 2, is working on the bedrooms. You come this way. Why am I here? Because, it's a constant question I get. You have a great life in the States. I've been blessed. You have, property in other countries on, beautiful beaches. You have places in the mountains. And I was really running towards fulfilling not only my spiritual destiny, but wholeness. And what I realized, I guess, through my journey is, I was teaching or sharing concepts around generational wealth outside of financial wealth, which is physical wealth, kind of the spiritual and moral wealth and kind of family unity. And I realized that I had accomplished some of those things, but that community, family unity wealth, some of the spiritual journey and healthy living, there were gaps. I was looking for something deeper, and that was really my purpose. And I found it here. That is what I was ultimately looking for. I was clear that wholeness was really the measure of wealth, how well you sleep, how much you laugh, how much joy you have in your life, limiting your stress. And what I found is the life I was living, even though in some ways people might consider it luxury, I had a high degree of stress. I was disenchanted about somewhat the direction of some of the things I was seeing in some ways. And so I wasn't as optimistic about, aspects of what I saw going on in the world. And I saw real tangible opportunity. And I saw the future here in Africa. And I wanted to be a part of it. It's like joining a movement. This is a movement. And I want to be connected to it. So, and a lot of people say, hey, what are you running away from? And I'm like, I'm not running away from anything. I'm leading in the new direction. That's different. I kind of look at it as, some people are explorers. Somebody have to go out and find a new frontier. And not that Africa's the new frontier, it is the frontier. And it's one of the many frontiers, and I want to be a part of it. So I call myself leading and educating the people, and I'm not running away from anything. And I just realized that, wholeness can exist a lot of places. And I love America. America has, for me, has brought a lot of opportunity. A lot of the people I love are in the U.S., and it will always have a place in my heart. But Africa's offering what I had in America with some extra things that I was missing. And I value those things. And I was struggling to find that balance in America, and I think I found it here. So that's why I'm here. And I want to tell the stories for people like me who are looking for something more. People who are not full where they are, to really say, hey, there's options other places. And I'll say this everywhere. I've traveled a lot of places. There's options in South America. There's options in the Caribbean. There are options in other areas of the U.S. If you're in the Northeast, you can go to the South. If you're in the South, you can go to the Midwest. But find your wholeness, find your joy, find your happy place. And the reality is Africa's a big country. Africa's 3 times as large as North America. I mean, the opportunities are vast. And Kenya, I believe, is going to revolutionize the frontier for Africa. It's going to be one of the many countries that help forge awareness to this continent. And so I chose this one to be a part of. And there are many others, but I think this is definitely one. And I encourage people to come and see it for yourself. We have bedroom number 3. Once again, Another very large bedroom, high ceilings, another bathroom, another walk-in closet. And as you come this way, this is my room. This is where the sleep happens. So as you can see, another large room. The volume of this room is huge. I have a sitting area here in the morning. Sometimes I have my coffee. I have my computer. This is kind of where I start doing some of my planning before I get in the shower. I do my morning calisthenics up here to try to stay fit as much as I can. And as you roll behind you, we'll quickly show you one of my favorite parts of this room. We have a beautiful bathroom. I love this soaking tub. It's large. It's a great place to relax. We have 2 showers, a double shower head. We have double sinks. All the mirrors are backlit. So all the modern conveniences that you're accustomed to anywhere else in the world we have. We have marble floors. I think these were bought in from, I'm not exactly sure, I don't know if it's Italy, but definitely a European country. High ceilings. I actually put a plant in here so I can feel like I'm inside, outside with nature. And then another closet, built-in closet with everything I need. By the way, I've lived in the States for years. I have many, many large closets, but I don't have one as well organized as this. We have all the corresponding pull-outs and pull-ins that you need. We have a mirror that swivels. I mean, this thing was well designed. So I love the fact that we have natural light in here as well when you're getting dressed. So another beautiful lifestyle luxury item here in Africa. And the most important thing is Lavington, I'm walking distance from everything. Traditionally I'm an urban person. I like access to amenities. So I think there are 3 grocery stores inside of a 7-minute walk. There's pharmacies, there's restaurants. I mean, I'm in the heart of everything, luxury restaurants. So I love it here. The social scene is great. So I'm in the middle of the city. I have a gated community. I have a large home with all the luxury amenities. And I also have access to everything I need and great people. So let me show you the last floor. Okay, when we talk about living well in Africa, this is part of it. We talked about the garden. We talked about nature. We talked about grounding. We talked about, luxury baths and lifestyle. But here's some additional offerings that I have right here in Africa. And just to let you know, I've lived all over the world. I've been really blessed. But I've never had some of the amenities that I have in this house in my other residence. Welcome to my gym / spa. So I'm in the process of outfitting this, but right from the beginning. I have my elliptical machine. I have my masseuse that comes in. This is where I get my massage. I try to get one at least once a week. I'm setting that regimen up. I have basically a full exercise routine to stay strong and healthy. And as you move in here, I have an extra surprise. Welcome to my private sauna. So I have a sauna here, behind you here. And then I have a kind of a sitting meditation area as well. So here's the routine. The routine is you can get a massage, you can get in the sauna, you can do the cold shower, you can exercise, and I have one more surprise for you. I have a large jacuzzi. So welcome. So I have a large jacuzzi. It's obviously private. So the routine is you heat this up. You can go from jacuzzi to sauna, sauna to massage to cold shower. You can create your own healthy routine for living a healthy and long life. And that is the tour of the house, living well in Nairobi, Kenya. This is a story that must be told. People are living well here. The quality of life is here. The amenities are here. I chose this home because of its location, for what I need. But whatever you're looking for, if you're looking for a more modern home with more acreage, that's available. If you're looking for a high-rise apartment that's luxury, that's available. You're looking for a farm, that's available. For me, this is, growing up in Washington, D.C., I used to live in an English tutor. This is a, English stone home that's well built. It has character. That's what I was looking for. It's well located. It has all the amenities that I could ask for. It's actually more than I need. I can host my family, I can host my business events, and at the same time, I have a lifestyle, a relaxation, and joy. First, let me just say, there's many different levels to live here in Nairobi. So since I've been here, this is actually the third place that I've chosen. So I was auditioning in different places and different lifestyles. So I first started in Westland. I had a two-bedroom apartment in a really, really nice area. I believe that apartment was in Riverside, was somewhere around maybe $2,000 a month in terms of US dollars. But Riverside is a pretty exclusive area, as you know. It's a new apartment. It was, all the finishings and luxury trimmings that you'll get at any nice place in any other, Western country. So it was really, really nice. I determined that I wanted something a little different, something a little bit more private. So obviously I ended up staying there. So here I'm renting a house. This house, I don't even know the size, but I think it's, 5,500 or 6,000 square feet, if we're doing square feet in terms of, lifestyle. I'm in a gated community in Lavington, which is a very, wealthy and exclusive and affluent area here in Nairobi. The reason I chose Lavington specifically is because I wanted something that was walkable. I wanted kind of that suburban but urban lifestyle. So I'm obviously paying more than some other folks. This house has, essentially 5 bedrooms, 7 bathrooms. As you know, I have a sauna, gym, massage area, jacuzzi, very large rooms, private garden, 24-hour security. This also includes my staff, my gardener, my helper, or some people in the States say maid, who also cooks, washes clothes and cleans and cares for the house 6 days a week, okay? And that, in terms of US dollar equivalent, that probably cost me, with all my utilities, maybe $3,500 per month if I had to add everything in it, okay? All my staff and the way I live and my utilities, that includes cable and everything I need. So that's the equivalent lifestyle. I mean, if you live in Washington, D.C., $3,500 for all of that could probably get you maybe a nice 2-bedroom apartment. And just keep this in mind. I mean, I have primary kitchen, second kitchen, double car garage, maid's quarters. I have so much more, and more than the material things, the lifestyle. So, so that's about the cost of living here. So for me, I want to first say I've been blessed. It's not all about me. It's about my blessing and grateful. Nobody does it alone. So I've been fortunate enough to have a lot of good people in my life that have sowed into me, have provided me guidance and direction, in the process. So I want to start there. But secondly, I've been very intentional about how I live. I've always had a dream from the time I was a kid to build some kind of generational wealth for me and leave a really, well-defined legacy of impact. So I started years ago, first with some smart money principles, saving. I've always kind of, they used to say, save a minute, pay yourself first was the old thing. When you get paid, you save 10% of your check, or you save what you can. So you pay yourself first and then you live on the rest. So I've always adopted those principles from, early in my life. So I've been able to invest smartly. So as you know, I have a real estate portfolio where I manage Airbnbs. I've also been a serial entrepreneur. I've started a lot of businesses and invested in some businesses as well. And those things have worked out well for me. So that has provided, some opportunity. But the strategy was I invested in things that would pay me passive income. So they say, buy things that pay you to own them. So everything I own, what I consider an asset versus a liability is whether it puts money in my pocket as opposed to me paying it. So my house from a perspective is an asset, but I have to pay every month. So it's kind of an asset, long-term asset, but it's not something I can live on. So what I love about my rental property is it pays me to own it. Not only can I get capital appreciation, it pays me rent every month. So that's been very powerful. And I've also built that, and this is a very key part of my strategy. I built some of that in markets that were more affordable. Because in the U.S., to buy property, sometimes you have to get a 30-year mortgage. So your ability to make profits on top of that, on top of your mortgage and your expenses, you're able to earn less return. So I bought in markets where I was able to be able to buy a place and get a deed quicker. Places like Nairobi, Kenya, where they have world-class apartments, for example, since I've been here looking, and premium buildings that are being developed, they call them off-plan by, developers, with buildings that have, concierge service, gym, swimming pool, and they have one-bedroom apartments, let's say, 6, 7, 800 square feet for anywhere from $50,000 to $80,000 US, right? So in those kind of markets, if you're American, you're able to start making payments on a property, let's say, cost $60,000 over the next 3 years. You have enough disposable income in some cases to make that kind of investment. Whereas in the States, let's say Washington D.C. specifically, a one-bedroom condo might cost you $400,000 or $500,000. It's very difficult to buy that as a rental property when you also have to pay for yourself to live. So I've done that and I've been successful, and I started that about 20 years ago, buying investment properties, and that's worked out well. I also run a successful business, and I took that capital I earned from that business and I invested in real estate and other investment options from commodities. There's many different things you can invest in outside of the stock market. So obviously I have a investment portfolio in the States, but there's commodities, there's crypto, there's gold, there's silver, there's coffee, tea. There's a lot of trading you can do in the world. So I basically was very, very savvy at looking at all the different investment classes and finding the balance of those classes that would pay me passively so that I can have more options and freedom available for me in the future. So I kind of invested years ago, and I'm basically reaping the rewards of that kind of sacrifice and blessing today. Coming from the northeast of the United States, Washington D.C., what we used to consider chocolate city, an international city, coming to Kenya has been the easiest transition of any place I ever transitioned to. And so let me tell you why. I mean, culturally, English is the spoken language. So you don't have a language issue. People speak English very well. In many cases, better than some of the places in the States that I go to. So in terms of communication, culturally, being, Black American, as they say here, African American, as we say in the United States, a lot of our culture is very similar to the African culture. I didn't realize how similar it was. Food, a lot of the food items are the same. They have different names, but they're the same. A lot of our customs and language is the same. Maybe it's the genetic programming that we have connected. From an urban perspective, my Uber app works. My Uber Eats apps works. There's no adjustment in any of my apps on my phone. Okay? So that's seamless. Wi-Fi is fast. That's seamless. So shopping centers, in a lot of ways, you know, Nairobi has different product offerings at the luxury level. I would say in the U.S., maybe we have a larger item or product set in some areas. But in terms of common stuff, because of the connection to places like China and Europe, the delivery of items and merchandise are vast here. So for me, the transition has been surprisingly easy. The people are so engaging. I've never been a place where people have engaged me so quickly. I was here less than 30 days, and I can't tell you how many great connections and friendships I'm able to build very quickly with like-minded people. So the community is very open. And as you know, Kenyans are very social. So if you want to go be social and fellowship with folks, there's many places you can go and sit down with Kenyans and chat. There's many environments. Kenyans are very social people. So there's no sense of isolation here. There's a sense of integration. So for me, the transition to Kenya has been incredibly easy. The hardest part, maybe missing my family. My family's so far away. And the time zone maybe, because, you know, I think we're 7 hours ahead of Washington, D.C. So, you know, so maybe from a business perspective, my work day here would probably start, you know, 4 or 5 in the evening in terms of me connecting with my business in Washington, D.C. So the time adjustment has been probably, and I wouldn't say hardest, but it's definitely been an adjustment. But on the other side, I'm learning to optimize that. I spend my day doing things here in Kenya that I normally don't have time to do. And then around 5 o'clock, I come home and I kind of start the second half of my day, which is, you know, connecting conference calls with people back in the United States. So I think, you know, and obviously, you know, your family, you know, you get a chance to see your family and your friends when you're back in your home. So I think those are the two transitions I would say would be the hardest thing, the time difference. That requires some adjustment, especially if you're still connected, you know, with a business or people in the States.
Hey Web Nation family, for years we've been sharing stories of diasporans who have relocated from the diaspora and currently living here on the continent of Africa. You guys have been enjoying the episode, saying in the comment section that you want this to be you one day. Why don't we just bring that time to now? We are inviting you to come on a trip with us to South Africa, November 2026. This is going to be an 11-day experience of we visiting cities like Cape Town, Johannesburg. We having experiences like going to the wine lands and actually experiencing South Africa, the people, the food. This is not just a vacation. This is a very well detailed experience that gives you the proper insight on people interested in relocating. The beautiful part about this is we've made it easy for you to come on this trip with us. By you just making the deposit, you get to pay the rest in installments. You have about 10 months to make an installment and get yourself on a trip with us to South Africa. Scan the QR code, secure your spot, and see you in South Africa. Now guys, let's get back into the video.
The expat community here for African Americans is thriving, is welcoming, and is growing every day. Not only African Americans, I'm meeting people from London. That expat community is growing quickly. I've met people from France. Just recently, I met a gentleman who's coming from Spain. All people of color that are coming here, of all races. So the expat community is thriving. As a matter of fact, when I first came here, I launched or assisted in launching a networking group here in Nairobi. And I think our first meeting, we had like 50 expats, or 40, maybe 45 expats showed up for the first meeting. And these are business professionals, all people who are relocated here. Now I think this is the 4th month. I think we've had over 100 people show up. So the expat community is thriving. I'm in the process of kicking off a couple of events I think I mentioned to you before. One of them is going to be the Nairobi Accelerator. It's a business group around CEOs, investors and thought leaders here in Kenya, and connecting them with thought leaders in America. So that's a thriving community. People are open and welcoming to this experience and this interchange. So it's basically, the community is open, the ideas are open, and people are ready and excited. So yeah, so the community has been powerful. And not only welcome me, I'm able to lead events. It's not easy to go to a country and be an outsider and organize thought leaders. People have to be ready and open. I mean, in many other places, you have to put a lot of time in before people trust you. Here, people will accept you for where you are, and then you can build relationships from there. So yeah, very open. As a matter of fact, that's one of the most powerful benefits of, I think, Nairobi. In Kenya, safety is not an issue. That's the first question I get from anybody. Oh, you're in Nairobi, Kenya. Is it safe? It's absolutely safe. I feel safer here than I feel in many places I travel. Now, one of the benefits I have, I blend in. Until I speak, people think I'm a local, right? I blend in. I look like many people look like me here. I see my twin at least once a week. Somebody that look just like me, right? Walking down the street. So that's the first thing. I feel like I blend in and I'm a part of the community. But it's safe. Let me just say this. I've lived in other major cities in America, and I feel like I have a better chance of not having a violent crime here than I do in America. And I live well in America. And that crime can be a criminal, or in some cases, it can be law enforcement, in our country. So I think, you have to really look at that. And a lot of people feel safe, not just me because I'm a male. There's a lot of expat females that are moving here because they feel safe. So I think that's a big compelling, for me. Being a man that has daughters, my daughters would be safe here. I can send them out, they can go to the mall, they can get in the Uber, they're going to be safe here. So safety, obviously you have to be smart, right? Safety is not a paramount issue here in Nairobi. I'm not a visa expert on Nairobi yet, but you can come as a tourist visa. I know it's 90 days, and then you can stay another 90 days. You can extend your visa for additional 90 days. I know they have a new digital nomad visa that you can apply for. You can get a visa as a business person. So they have visa options. I experienced this, by the way, when I was in South America as well. So managing the visa process in every country is something that you have to explore. But they have many options here that you can apply for. By the way, the digital nomad visa is a relatively a new visa offering here in Nairobi, which means the government is trying to open up the borders again to welcome more people in different capacities. So I think that's great. So keep this in mind. There are countries that are in the process from a strategy perspective. They're closing their borders. They're making it more difficult for people to come and live within their country. And there's some countries that are opening their borders and inviting people in. And they're targeting certain groups of people, whether it be digital nomads or high net worth people, or, people who want to come for education. But I want to be affiliated with a country that's opening its doors to people to come to participate in their economy. They say go where you're welcomed and where you're valued. So I'm not interested in going to a country that doesn't necessarily want me there. And I was at a recent networking event about 2 weeks ago, and there was a gentleman. I I know he's originally from, I think, Nigeria. He's been living in France for many years. I think he's a filmmaker, and he's relocating back to Nairobi. So my question to him was, hey, what's your why? Why are you coming back to Nairobi? You're originally from Nigeria. Why Nairobi? And he had some good reasons in terms of his business network is in Nairobi. So that was kind of his one of his core answers. For his business, his filmmaking associates and opportunities are here for storytelling. But one thing he said that was compelling. He says it's hard to build where you're not welcome. He said it's hard to build where you're not welcome. Go where you're welcome and embraced. And I was like, wow. Sounds simple. But it's the analogy of swimming against the tide. Doesn't mean you can't be successful, right? But you might be exhausted in the process. Go where you're swimming, right? Swimming downstream, swimming with the tide. Don't swim against the tide. Go where you're embraced and you're welcomed, right? It's hard to build where you're not welcome. I thought that was powerful. Very simple, but that's his why. He felt welcome in Nairobi. He has a network here. And so, he felt like at this point in his life, not that he couldn't be successful where he was, but he felt like he could come here and he can accelerate his growth by being in an environment where he's welcome and embraced and where the talent in his industry is here. In terms of healthcare, I wasn't as confident. I was a little worried about healthcare, but I've met some expats here who are doing medical tourism. They've been educating me about the quality of healthcare, the hospitals, the doctors, some of the practices. So today, now, 4 months after being here, I feel really comfortable with the medical system, which was an area of concern when I came here. I was worried that the quality of care may not be the same. But that's been minimized now through kind of education. I actually did a tour of one of the hospitals here, and I was really impressed with the facility. The facility, given it is pretty new, obviously everything was modern and nice, right? And the doctors seem to be really caring. So I feel more comfortable today than I felt, let's say, 4 months ago. And I also like the fact that some of the medical treatment approach here, given its connection to Eastern Asian, is more holistic, right? And so I do like that element in the medical practice. So you do have those options. You have less kind of restrictions if you want to pursue more holistic medicine. You have more options here than you would have maybe in America because of the way the medical system is structured, right? Through insurance companies. So I do like that you can explore that if that's an interest of yours. So I'm definitely more comfortable today, but I would really encourage people to kind of analyze that for themselves because obviously that's pretty important. And in terms of Uber, I want to say that I don't have a car. I don't want a car because Uber is so inexpensive here. I think the standard Uber ride, I think you could probably go anywhere for, 10, 15 minutes for, it's like $1.70 in US dollars. Was it 220 shillings, which works out to be about $1.75. So anywhere from $1.75 to, at the max, $5. I can go anywhere within about a 40-minute Uber ride or more. So it's fast. When you hit Uber, a driver's here inside of 2 to 3 minutes, max. So from a convenience and just mobility, it's almost like having a private driver in this network. And there's many levels of Uber that you can get. So there's no need for a car insurance, parking. For me, this is almost ideal, for me, lifestyle in terms of convenience. If I want to go to the airport in Washington, D.C., and I live close to the airport, less than 15 minutes, okay? Very, very quick Uber ride. My airport Uber ride is like $25 US. for a 15-minute ride. In Nairobi, Kenya, if I had to do a 15-minute ride, it's less than $2. So it's not even comparable. What I wish I knew before I moved to Kenya, I wish I really understood how powerful the combination of community, business opportunity, and spiritual connection was in Nairobi. Because had I known, I would have moved here earlier. I almost, in some cases, when I was at an event last night, I almost felt like, am I late? Am I getting here a little late? And what I mean by that is, I see people that have incredible opportunity and joy and happiness and community. And I wish I knew that. I mean, it is as much research as I did, as aware as I think I am on Kenya and Africa in general, I just realized how little I really knew about what existed here. You know, you only know through your experience day to day. You know, the media, the information out there about what's going on in Kenya is not easy to find, as it is some other places. So I wish I knew that. And I would have been better prepared, and I would have made this decision even earlier. You know, earlier, and not only earlier in my life, I would have absolutely made this a priority, you know. And I look at my travel, and I think about all the countries I went to in terms of the order. You know, why didn't I come to Nairobi, Kenya 10 years ago, 15 years ago? Why did I fly over Africa and go to Asia first? And a lot of that was my orientation of the information that was provided to me. I had some friends, by the way, in Washington, D.C. has a pretty large Ethiopian community, who years ago was like, when I moved back to Africa, I'm going to Nairobi. And they were from Ethiopia. I thought that was interesting. And they told me that Nairobi was the place to be. They told me that 10 years ago. So I always say to myself, why didn't I travel 10 years ago? And it's because the storytelling on Africa is not as strong as the storytelling on many other places. So I wish I knew that. Follow your purpose, not finances. Because to be a whole and happy person, you have to be operating in your purpose. So I think for me, you know, I spent a good part of my life chasing capitalism, chasing money. You know, we want things, we want materialism, right? We want nice houses, we want cars, we want all this. And I think there's a way you can do both. You know, there's a way you can chase your purpose. And for me, I did chase my purpose. I always wanted to run a business. I always wanted to build generational wealth. I wanted to help people who needed opportunities. So I started a staffing/tech firm. So I followed it. But there were places where I was conflicted. There were places where I made money and I wasn't happy. So how I became an entrepreneur, I was moving towards my natural alignment. But I spent a lot of time, you know, weaving to get there. And I know a lot of people that are doing that. And so, you know, I don't want to marginalize the fact that finances are not important. But money itself is not going to make you whole. And so if I had to tell my old self, I would say operate in your alignment right from the beginning. I kind of, hey, that'd have put 10, 12 more years back in the early part of my life. And maybe I would have been here sooner, you know? And so I think sometimes we get caught up in, I used to call it the American dream. And I don't think the dream was a complete picture of what it should be. It was very limited. It was limited around finances and things. And the last thing I would tell myself is that focus on your community of good people. The quality of your life is a direct result of the people in your life. And sometimes when you're chasing money, you end up spending a lot of time with people who may not be the people that should be in your community. So you spend the majority of your time with people that don't value what you value, right? And so how can you be whole? How can you be happy? How can you operate in peace? You know, if you don't have good people in your life. If you have people who, we call it, it's kind of like people with all they value is money and things, how can you have loyalty? How can you feel loved? How can you feel secure? So you have to be careful. You have to balance that. So really, purpose and community need to be elevated, I think, above finance. My advice is come and see for yourself. If you're from a Western country, be careful of listening to the media. Be careful with the stories of the past. Things have changed all over the world, and I said this on another video, right? Nairobi, Kenya is not the Nairobi, Kenya 20 years ago or 10 years ago, right? Things are changing. The power curve and the opportunities for countries have changed. If you think about it, 30 years ago, China wasn't a superpower. Things change, okay? Singapore wasn't a world power 20, 30 years ago, okay? Things are changing, right? The time is now. Nairobi's next. Come and see for yourself. All the elements that make a country great exist here. And so I just encourage people to come and see for yourself. Don't, especially if you're from a legacy country in the West, do your research, but come and see for yourself, feel it for yourself. Because one thing you can't do, you can't feel the environment, you can't smell the air through research, you can't experience the people through research, you can't taste the food through research, you can't experience many of the things that I mentioned in this video today on the internet. Come and see and experience it for yourself firsthand. That's my message.